Because most of the time, love, the love that we see on movies and in TV shows, it's very different from the love that we experience every single day, right? Because love doesn't always show up in these huge, big, dramatic, romantic moments, but love, it shows up on a normal Tuesday, on a Tuesday when you're tired, when your patience is run low. It shows up when you have nothing left in the tank. Love shows up when all of that's going on, and then you are dealing with someone who is asking something of you. And sometimes that person who's asking something of you, you don't always get along with that person, do you? And when we interact with that person, we are faced with a decision right in front of us. Do we choose to love this person even if it is hard and we don't want to? But remember, Jesus, he's not addressing what you do when you feel great or when you're interacting with people who you always get along with. He is addressing, what do you do when you are irritated?
The late Scottish actor Sean Connery won his only Academy Award playing a hard-nosed, incorruptible Irish cop in The Untouchables. Early in the film, he schools a frustrated Eliot Ness who has been thwarted at every turn in his efforts to stamp out organized crime. And he goes, you want to know how to get Capone? They pull a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. The Chicago way, unfortunately, is an apt description of how things work all over this world. If you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you worse. By the way, it is a really good movie if you haven't seen it. It's been a while since I've seen it. Jacob has been going over in his recent sermon, chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians, looking at the love chapter. And in this, he's been going through different sections of what true love from the example of Jesus truly is. And today we're going to look at love, how it serves. And we're going to specifically look at 1 Corinthians 13, verse 5. And it goes, it does not love, it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking, which is the main focus of the scripture today. It is not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrongs. Now, I want to point out, if there's one key takeaway in today's message, it is this. True love goes above what is expected. So let's bring Daniel into the early conversation here. Thinking of Jacob's message this past week, can you think of a recent time that you sacrificed your time or service to go above and beyond what was expected?
Yeah, I remember working at Kohl's, and I was working on Black Friday, and there was an older woman in the back who was trying to find someone to flag down to help her get a vacuum off the shelf, and I could have just put the vacuum in the cart that she had, but I volunteered to walk up with her to the front to make sure that she got there safely and wasn't like hitting anyone with her cart or anything like that, but just sacrificed a little bit of time to help her out on her way.
For a minute, great example. For a minute, I thought you were going to throw in how just yesterday of this recording, you helped me move 2 different pianos and another very heavy piece of furniture on your day off when you didn't have to, which you always do that. So anybody that knows you will think, okay, Daniel could throw in 100 different examples there. You see, we live in a world that teaches protect your rights, defend your reputation, never let people take advantage of you. But Jesus teaches something radically different. In the Gospel of Matthew 5, he tells us this, turn the other cheek, give more than what's taken, go the extra mile. Jacob made this point early in his message, and I thought it was so profound. Choose to love people even when it's hard, even when you're irritated or tired. You see, this isn't weakness. This is kingdom strength. Jesus-shaped love willingly lowers itself to serve others, confronting our pride and revealing the life of the kingdom. Jesus says this, do not resist the one who is evil. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other side. Our immediate reaction? That's not fair. And that's exactly where pride lives, right? Pride says, well, I deserve better. They can't treat me like that. I'm not going to look weak. But Jesus is not addressing fairness. You see, he's exposing our attachment to status, our rights, our self-protection. I'm sure you've run into this instance. I drive a lot for my day job, and so many times it's almost a daily occurrence where I'm driving on a highway where they're doing some kind of construction or there's some kind of accident, and it goes from 3 to 2 lanes or 2 to 1 lanes, and everybody's got to merge, right? In that merger, every single time there's at least 1, 2, or 14 cars that go by you, even though they could have gotten in behind, right? And they keep on going because they want to get to the front of the line. They want to save time. Everything in you rises up at that point. That's not right. Now imagine choosing not to escalate it, even letting it go, which is hard, right? I know it is for me. Why is it so hard? Well, because something in us demands recognition and control. But you see, that's pride. Jesus redefines strength. You see, Jesus gives us 3 examples. First, he tells us, turn the other cheek, which is the insult. Then he says, give your cloak also, which is a loss. And then, thirdly, go the extra mile, which is the inconvenience. Each one is about choosing to go lower instead of asserting power. But this isn't passive weakness. It's intentional humility. This is the kind of love that makes Christians stand out in the right ways, which we should do. Look at it like this. Pride is like an elevator, always trying to go up. Higher status, more control, greater recognition. But Jesus calls us to take the stairs, down. Every step down feels like a loss, but in the kingdom, down is the directive of Christ-likeness. Now let's look at Romans 5, 6 through 8 that Jacob talked about on Sunday. While we were still weak, see, Christ died for us, the ungodly. While we were still sinners, Jesus didn't wait for us to deserve it or earn it or acknowledge it. He moved toward us when we were at our worst. Think about your most recent disagreement with somebody. Hopefully it wasn't just this morning. In most conflicts, both sides wait. I can tell you a very quick example. Most of the managers, bosses in my life, I've gotten along with really, really well. I'm pretty easy to get along with. But there was one particular manager, her name was Terry, maybe 10 years, more than 10 years ago. It was probably 15 years ago. She was my manager. And I had just lost my manager. She comes in. I thought we're going to get along great. Right away, we had our disagreements. She was a micromanager, and to tell you the truth, the whole team did not like her as a manager because she was very hard. You had to do it her way. She micromanaged. It was very difficult. And for about a whole year, that first year, I was looking to get away. I was looking to leave that job. That's how miserable I was. But then I had to realize, I've got to change my ways. I've got to look at this differently. What would Jesus do? Because think about when we come into that disagreement or that conflict. Sometimes we'll say, I'll move when they move. But Jesus went first. Even when we were wrong, even when we were resistant, even when we didn't care, that's love that lowers itself. This kind of love confronts our need to be right, our need to be seen, or our need to be repaid. It asks, are you willing to be misunderstood to reflect Christ? Because going lower often looks like losing. But in the kingdom, Jesus' kingdom, is actually revealing Jesus. Let's look at what this looks like practically, applicable in our lives. This means choosing not to retaliate in a tense conversation. It means serving someone who doesn't appreciate it. It means giving when it feels unfair, absorbing offense instead of escalating it. All things that are countercultural, right? And this isn't because people deserve it, but because Christ did it for us. The second car I owned in my life was a 1985 Buick Skylark. I got it in high school and then had it through college. Probably because I ran it really hard and I just didn't take care of things or was very mature with my car back then, most of the equipment in the car was pretty worn, including the shocks. Probably because of the way I drove it. But a car's shock absorber takes impact so the rest of the car doesn't. That's how they work. I don't know much about cars, but I do know that part. You see, Jesus absorbed the shock of our sin. When we choose not to retaliate, we absorb impact instead of passing it on. And see, that's how kingdom people stop cycles of harm. So let's look at the closing challenge here. Where is your pride resisting going lower? Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a conflict. Or what about a situation where you feel justified in what you're doing? You see, Jesus didn't just teach us this. He lived it. I love that he was the example. Let me ask you, Daniel, what wowed you in Jacob's message this past week?
I actually had 2 points. The first one actually came around the Chosen clip, but it was that aspect of regular people like likable people. But I always like it how Bob Goff says in his study, it calls them difficult people, and just that challenge of loving difficult people in your life. And the second thing was Jacob mentioned the weird neighbor, and I was up here in the booth, and I whispered to James, I was like, I don't think I have a weird neighbor. Does that make me the weird neighbor? So that's something I have to come to terms with, I guess.
That's really good. I've often heard that if you're talking about somebody who's strange or difficult, because we all have them, if you can't think of one, that's probably you, which I know in many of my cases is probably me. I do want to make a quick point when you talked about the chosen clip. That's also, like Jacob said, that's one of my favorites. There is nothing like seeing the look on the face of the Roman soldiers when Jesus goes beyond, and they just look at him like, why would you do this? That's the look that non-Christians will give us when we love when it's not expected. I love that part. Jesus tells us in the Sermon on the Mount, he goes, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him also the other. It's worth trying to picture being struck in the right cheek by a presumably right-handed person. Jesus is describing a slap, a humiliating backhanded, a public diss. If you're someone whose ultimate security is in God, well, then the appropriate response, according to Jesus, is not to strike back. Instead, show your left cheek. Invite another slap. Here you missed a spot. Suddenly, the attacker is under attack. And not by retaliatory violence, but by a higher moral principle, bringing his actions into the light. The Chicago way has never been God's way. And the spirit of an eye for an eye, you see, was never intended to be a God-approved mandate for getting even. That is, if you refuse to invite me to your party, then I get to snub you right back. And if you say something nasty about me on social media, well, I'm then empowered to use my Facebook page as a weapon too. Jesus calls us to a higher path. And as Gandhi put it, an eye for an eye will only make the whole world blind. To me, when I hear what Jacob's talking about, honestly, throughout the series, but especially today, comes to one of my, I probably have two really, really favorite verses in Scripture. One's behind me, 1 Thessalonians, but the other one's John 13:34. Jesus talking to his disciples the night before he's going to be, the night he's arrested and going to be beaten. It goes, a new command I give you, love one another, as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, if you do that, everyone around you will know that you're my disciples. Here again, if you love one another. That's what this all comes down to. This is how the unconditional, unique way of loving when it's not expected is going to take hold of somebody's life and turn people to see who Jesus really is. So remember, the one key takeaway today is this. True love goes above what is expected. I'm going to leave you on this one last point that Jacob said in his message I thought was so impactful. He goes, people cannot ignore love that consistently refuses to play by the rules of this world. Have a great day.
Like and subscribe.